Hello, greetings everyone. Also, um, I have to excuse myself, go back to bed, and invite our speaker today, Bhante Pasanna. I hope you enjoy your time together. I'm off. Bye.
Bye. Ayya, would you mind turning off the mic if you can still hear me? Yes, hello everyone. At first, thanks Ayya Phalanyani for the invitation, and I think I can speak for everyone when I wish you a swift recovery and some relief from your health conditions as soon as possible. And I want to greet everyone present here now, although I can't see you. I hope you can see and hear me well and understand my little bit dusted English. If there are any questions regarding my Dhamma points I want to share with you, please write them in the comments, and I will come back to them at the end of our hour. So my topic for today is mindfulness based on the body and some clues we can get from mindfulness on breathing, especially the first 4 steps of the 16 steps of Anapanasati, with which I think many of you will be familiar enough. I found it for my own practice to be extremely helpful to get some additional insights to famous and often also a little bit elusive practice of mindfulness in our daily activities, mindfulness based on the body. And so we can check out together how we can gain a few special insights into this so basic and so meaningful practice in the Dhamma. There's a very important, helpful factor at the very beginning of every mindfulness practice, which we find in the Satipatthana Sutta, where it is phrased something like overcoming greed and negativity in the world. I think that's a phrase that sometimes overlooked maybe a little bit. But for me, it's of great significance because a genuine practice of mindfulness is only possible if we get into a mind state where we can switch from the usual logic or the usual principle of how our mind works in the world, where it's always about getting things, getting stuff, or getting rid of things, which the Buddha sums up in the phrase overcoming greed and negativity in the world. So as long as our mind is still working along that strategy, it's very difficult to access any kind of mindful perspective, because that's not what the mind is interested in when it's in its worldly mode, so to say. So before we even start out trying to achieve any stability in mindfulness practice, it's always good to work with our basic with our basic outlook on what we want to do with our mind, what we want to do with our time, and so we can continuously reflect on the true meaning of mindfulness as a tool to go beyond just achieving and fighting in the world over sense impressions. So rather than getting rid of stuff, we now are interested in looking at stuff and deriving some understanding from that perspective. Similar or parallel instruction we may find in the instruction on mindful breathing, where the Buddha encourages us to make mindfulness the main focus or the priority of our interest. That's a phrase that's sometimes differently translated, Paramokkhang Sati Upatapetva, and I understand it like that we establish mindfulness as our priority, and by that having a counterbalance to the mind again and again trying to verge back to this mundane attempt to relieve its own suffering, which is understandable enough. But in the Dhamma, we are fortunate enough to learn a new approach to relieve ourselves from suffering. And so once we have that basic mindset at hand, that enables us to go beyond the involvements and and worldly concerns. The first instructions on breathing the Buddha gives us is just mindfully breathe in and out, and notably that's the very first step to our mindfulness practice on breathing, and not the whole instruction. So if we sometimes get the instruction as just be mindful of breathing and that's it, it's not exactly what the Buddha had in mind, but it's one first step to get familiar with the phenomenon of the breath. And then when we start the 16 steps proper, the first 2 steps will be us knowing about the quality of our breathing, be it short, be it long. We start to witness whatever quality the breath will display by its natural bodily causes, and without judgment or without attempts to change and modify the task at hand here would be to simply observe and to exercise what the Buddha calls sampajanya, the clear comprehension. The long or short quality of the breath might not be the most exciting topic to engage our clear comprehension with, but nevertheless, it's a very good exercise for us to be able to have a sharp and intelligent mind while we're mindful, so we can penetrate into deeper aspects of reality, even if we start humbly with just seeing a long breath as long, a short breath as short. Still, it's a valuable exercise also to counteract any tendency in our meditation to just try to get into a nice and cozy state, but neglecting the clarity or intelligence, if we want to say, of our meditation. So if you sometimes meditate and feel like it's getting dull, or it's getting a bit heavy or unclear, one very easy remedy for that is to work on the development of clear comprehension, which is simply the ability of the mind to know and perceive something rather than just hazily following a vague object. So there's some discernment involved. So maybe just to clarify, in general, we can our whole mindfulness practice is always a collaboration of sati and sampajanya. And sampajanya, I tried to explain now a little bit, and sati would be the more the mere ability of the mind to stay with an object for a prolonged time and to experience something without too many interruptions and interference. So we can, I find it helpful to have this idea of sati and sampajanya being two differently trainable powers in the mind, because then we can easily adjust the whatever condition our mind is in. We can adjust it slightly, and maybe if it is already too engaged in perceiving and being interested in the contents of our perceptions, then we can calm it a bit with the more soothing sati only approach. And if we find it getting on the dull side, we can liven it up a little bit with clear comprehension. If we could come back now to a mindfulness of breathing, we find that the next step, once this beginning level of clear comprehension of sampajanya is established with the long short distinguishing, the sati aspect comes more into the forefront, and we start to experience the whole body while we breathe in and out by using the breath as a focus point. And when I say focus point, I don't necessarily mean to focus on really literally on one particular point in the body. There's so many different traditions and ways to practice breathing, mindfulness on breathing. So my personal humble contribution to the whole would be to take it quite literally and try to breathe in and out in a way that we can start to experience the body in its completeness, more and more, not by neither by focusing on one single point like the abdomen or the tip of our nose, nor by trying to feel some mysterious breath energy down to the tip of our toes, but simply by using the experience of breathing again and again to engage the mind with something bodily, if you understand me. So it's rather than just putting it all on one spot, we use the breath as a general phenomenon in the body to engage the mind with bodily phenomena. And so a field of awareness naturally envelops the whole body. That's just simply because the mind is continuously interested in what's going on in the body. So that's the stage of Sappakaya Patisangvidi, experiencing the whole body. I will breathe in and I will breathe out, which might take some time for people to experience, which is okay. There's no rush with anything, but quite easily, I think, with some practice, we can find it helpful and also quite easily approachable to use the sensation of the breath just to get the mind back into this. You might imagine it like into a container or a vase or something like that. However, whatever comes to your mind, some sort of container for the mind, which keeps it together, but is also is some sort of protection. So if we are really engaged with what's going on in the body, the whole process of breathing, the mind will naturally lose its interest in anything that's going on outside of that direct frame of experience. So when we're able to sustain this for some time, sustain that experience of feeling the whole body while we breathe in and out, having this protective frame around our body. The bodily urge or pull towards activities will start to diminish and eventually will calm down. That's the Kaya Sankarang I'm talking about. So the body, the urge towards activity as we experience it in our body. That's maybe how I would interpret it. If you look into your own experience, there's usually, for most of us, as a constant nagging feeling that we want to do something, that we have to do something, and that feeling usually does not subside when we actually are done with the particular activity that came to mind. So there's an underlying pull towards being active, regardless the actual need of getting through with one particular activity. I hope that's somehow clear what I mean by it. It's for most people, that's such a common building block of experience that we might not even be familiar to single it out and and directly look at it. But with some careful consideration, it can be actually quite shocking to see how simply this, you might call it something like a somatic instability, somatic constant stress feeling uh, pushes us through our daily activities, orders us around from one moment to the next. And now we're sitting here comfortably, but suddenly we get the feeling we should get something to drink, and we jump from our seat and rush to the kitchen and get something to drink. And then the idea that we should eat something together with our drink, and we rush to the supermarket to get our preferred food, and like that it goes on and on and on. And we never really address the deep unrest that's behind all that. And that's what we get now in direct contact with um, when we put that protective frame of whole body awareness up, which is a protection, but also can be a challenging experience when we start to, so to say, meet ourselves in that container and start to realize how much we are driven by forces that are in no way under our will or in any way um, controlled by anything like a self. Um, so those bodily activities, though this rather not bodily activities, but the urge to act out this tendency towards activity can calm down for one thing, simple explanation, because we keep the mind in our body container long enough for it to uh, 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 be able to flip back into the present moment again and again, often so many times that the comfort of staying in the present moment simply overwhelms the urge to do something in the future. Mm. One maybe a bit more subtle explanation to the same calming down of our bodily activity urge would be that by directly experiencing the body, which is not our usual avenue of being in relation with our body. Usually we perceive our body through the channel of perception that is mostly influenced by sight. As human beings, we are animals with a very sight orientated perception. So when we think of a body, if I would invite you now to close your eyes and think of your body or anybody's body, the first thing that might come to our mind is the form of a body as we perceive it with our eyes. But we know that our sight is only one of 5 bodily senses. So we can as well perceive the body not via sight, but via direct tactical sensations, via feeling and experiencing. And the perception of a felt and directly experienced body is in no way as rigid or as real and solid as the visually perceived body. So by again and again directly experiencing the whole body, we can switch from a reality approach that's mainly influenced by our perception of real and solid things, including ourselves and our body, to a more subtle approach of a world where everything is not as clearly defined as we might think. Now, when we close our eyes and we directly perceive the body by feeling, immediately it's obvious that this perception is not as we can't take it as solid and as granted as we're maybe used to. And that can also challenge not only the perception of our body, but the perception of the whole world of solid things and solid bodies we are used to live in when we're not mindful with our body. So if we, maybe that was a bit not so easy to access, but I just thought I tried to explain as well as I can. And the point is that by simply allowing the mind to rest in this protected experience of the whole body, we can arrive at a state of not only for just being a bit relaxed and calm, and that's fine, but we can arrive at a state of radical relaxation, I'd like to call it, because unlike most of the other forms of feeling calm and relaxed we know from maybe doing some art or sports or whatever we like to do, and with what calms our mood, this really works at the first root of a deeply ingrained habit of restlessness. Simply this the idea that there is this solid body, which is myself, which lives in a world of other solid bodies, and by interaction between those bodies, there can be gained some true benefit of achieving rest and calm. And obviously enough, our whole life experience never really works that way, because as soon as one project is finished, another one pops up, and then another one and another one. And as long as we are not lucky enough to practice mindfulness, we might at each and every time still be convinced that it's actually the circumstances, is actually this one, the necessity of this one project, which makes my mind wanting to fix this and solve this. Whereas in reality, again and again, coming from the same source, the same habit of just simply being not able to keep the mind in the present moment and in the body. So if realizing getting used to experience this form of radical relaxation can be an extremely peaceful and joyful experience of great relief. And this experience of relief is not limited to the sitting meditation and breathing meditation only, but something we can also try to take with us to our daily activities, to our non-sitting meditation, if we want to call it that way. But of course, and I'm sure most of you are long since aware of that, any type of mindfulness practice during the day or while not sitting in meditation proper will only have a chance to really have an impact on our general practice if it is backed up by a significant amount of sitting meditation. So if you find some time in the morning and in the evening to show the mind again and again, and unfortunately enough, we have to show it to the mind hundreds and thousands of times because it's so easily ready to forget. But when we show the mind again and again, this is the way to relaxation is by finding a bodily activity like the breath in the body that can bring the mind's attention back into this protected container of mindfulness. Then we can do mindfulness practice regardless whether we're sitting, standing, walking, doing our daily activities. So what's important for our non-sitting meditation? For one, for sure, again, we will have to think about our basic attitude. Mindfulness meditation is a tool to find a new avenue to freedom from stress and suffering, not by trying to change the world and change the circumstances around us to our preferred choices, but to find the right attitude within ourselves to deal with regardless what circumstances with wisdom. That's not only the final result of our practice, that's also the right view we can already bring to the table when we start to practice again and again, and so enhance the sincerity of the mind to really purposefully engage in mindfulness practice. The willingness to give up our get this and get rid of that strategy is that's the entry ticket to mindfulness practice. And the part about clear comprehension I talked about in for the breathing meditation exercise is also found in the first Satipatthana, in the foundation of mindfulness regarding the body. There we have body postures like sitting, lying down, walking, standing, or all the many odd bodily activities we run through during a day. So by distinguishing those and again giving the mind this one simple task of recognizing, now I'm walking, and now I'm putting on some clothes, and now I'm washing the dishes, and now I'm walking outside, and whatever you do during the day, the very simple task of following those little episodes with clarity of mind, with some intelligent observation will be very helpful to prime the mind for to will be helpful to keep the mind on the track of mindfulness altogether, but also will already prime the mind for some deeper insights we might want to follow later up, like the insight into impermanence, the insight into conditionality, and so on, which sometimes some meditators find difficult to achieve when the preliminary mindfulness practices were solely focused on practicing mindfulness in a way that everything easily gets just into a nice relaxed state without clarity and intelligence. So there's an important additional factor to this mindfulness practice. If you may excuse me for a second, there's some noise outside. I'll come back in a second. Excuse me, there was some noise outside. It was distracting me. So so then similar to our breathing mindfulness step of experiencing the whole body by focusing on the process of breathing in and out, we use the most prominent phenomenon going on in the body during our daily activities to bring mind and body together, as we would do in the sitting meditation, where we would use the flow of the in and out breath. That, of course, in our daily activities would not be prominent enough to keep the mind engaged enough to keep it in the body. So if we're walking, then this whole bodily process of walking would be the most prominent thing happening in the body, and quite naturally be the most suitable thing to attract the mind's attention so it settles again in the body. Obviously enough, with other activities would be similar. And by continuing to stay in that state where the mind is mostly interested and engaged with the body, we can again slowly start to not so much an act of calming, but rather experiencing the calming nature of mindfulness, so that our bodily activity urge can also slowly get less dominant, so we can experience a more relaxed bodily state, but also a more relaxed mental state. So I would suggest that you try out this very basic, simple steps of getting the mind into the mode of mindfulness by setting a preliminary mindset that enables the mind to do the mindfulness work rather than being distracted all the time and working on world improvement instead. And then getting the mind a decent bodily object that can keep the mind engaged for long enough to get the mind in the body. So the body becomes the container of our mindfulness, and then stay there long enough to experience the first positive effects of calming our urge again to do things in the world to alleviate our suffering, which, as I think most of us will by now have realized, can only be pacified within our own mind. Yeah, I hope there was something meaningful in what I tried to convey to you, and I will now check the chat and see whether there are any questions there. Or if you have questions now, just write them in your chat, please, and I will try to answer them. There seem to be no questions. Which I don't mind at all, to be honest, because we could spend another quarter hour with simply doing some meditation if you're up to it. So why not try out in a few simple steps what I try to convey now. Hope you all are in some environment that allows you to meditate now, and I will for the next 10 or 15 minutes, let's say for the next 10 minutes, I will do a short meditation with you, and if you in the meantime have any questions, you can still write them in the chat. All right? Please at first remind yourself meditation is an opportunity to exit the worldly strategy of fighting, of getting stuff we want, getting rid of other stuff we don't want. All we want now is experience the present moment mindfully. Experience the breath in the body. just as the body is breathing in and out naturally. Follow each in and out breath with the mind. You try to be clearly aware of the quality of each in and out breath. Could be long or short, deep or shallow. While we clearly see each breath as it is, don't judge the quality of the breath. Don't try to alternate it. Simply watching the body breathing in and out helps the mind to settle in the present moment. Find a refuge in the body. Once the whole body becomes a container for our mindfulness, all the concerns out there in the world of likes and dislikes can slowly but steadily calm down till we experience the relief and pleasure of nothing to do, no projects, no activity urges. thank you for joining me in this meditation, and I wish you all the best. Maybe you can find a way to incorporate some of the things I try to share with you in your daily mindfulness efforts. And don't give up. It's a lifelong project, but it's worth every moment we put into it. And at the end, I hope all of us will come closer and closer to the ultimate goal of relinquishing all the things we think we are, but in reality we are not. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say except all the best. And I also don't know how to exit the session now. Is that something I have to do, or will Ayya Phalanyani pop in? Anyways, I think I'll just leave it at that and wish you all the best. There she is.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhante Pasanna, for this wonderful talk. I might or might not be ready to speak again next week. Many of you might not know I have, in addition to the Lyme disease, also contracted the COVID, and in recovery mode. It's not too well, but it could be worse.
Yeah.
Worse. So
So
I have a
maybe
lot
we.
of... No, talk. I can't.
I just wanted to suggest that we can contribute all our merit by meditating together to Ayya Phalanyani and her swift recovery, so that she'll be back in her usual health and good mood to give the Dhamma again to all those wonderful people here. And I'm sure, since all states are anicca in this samsara, hopefully the anicca of your sickness is especially anicca very quickly, aniccaing away, so everyone can have you back.
Yes.
All the best.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I take care of turning off.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.